Hey guys, so Engineer Truth here. So if this is your first time watching my videos, I'm a mechanical engineer major or graduate, but I do try to make these really simple videos to tell you basics of each major, and today it's going to be civil engineering. So let's get right into it. Alright, so here we have the curriculum from UCLA's website. This is a roadmap. So right away I can tell you that it looks pretty similar. The first 2 years look pretty similar to any other engineering. And for the most part, I think after your first or second year, if you decide to switch out of civil engineering, you can to mechanical or aerospace and not lose too many units. That's a pretty simple switch. But again, after your junior year, which really gets into the heavy parts of civil engineering, you're probably not going to be able to switch majors. You might be able to switch majors depending on your school, but you're going to lose a lot of units. So pretty much the first and second year look really similar to mechanical or aerospace. You just take like a year of chemistry, a year of physics. No, I mean one class of chemistry, a year of physics, and a year of math, and then you start getting into like really basic classes like deformables, which is mechanics of deformables is basically studying like very basics like shear stress, like how a beam would bend, stuff like that. And then but what really separates civil engineers is that they have an emphasis on studying soil and like a bit of, I guess you could say, geology, but more like how the ground works, which is obviously really important for civil engineers, and a lot of structural analysis, just basically putting numbers to the way structures behave. Like say if you have a certain beam, if it's a cylinder, it'll behave in a certain way. If it's like a square shaped beam, then it's going to behave in a different way, and different equations need to be applied for different ways. And different places you put forces and all that stuff. So that's where civil engineers really specialize in. And for this particular civil engineering program, your senior year is pretty much all electives. It's not just like random classes. They're all, of course, like upper division civil engineering classes, but they probably do this so that students can specialize in whatever they want to specialize in. But you only see this at larger civil engineering schools. If you go to a smaller civil engineering school, they probably don't have enough students to have all these electives. They probably just have like a straight curriculum roadmap where every class is defined for you. So anyhow, let's go to the wages. I don't know, $40 an hour as the mean, which is really good. It's about the average for engineering. So obviously, it's pretty good pay, man. You're not gonna be hungry. Let's say you're not gonna be hungry if you work as a civil engineer, and you're gonna be able to pay for a good amount of stuff. We look at the distribution of jobs, and if you look at my biomedical engineering video, you notice that only certain places had biomedical engineering jobs, and that's because it's a very specialized field. It's a growing field. It's pretty new, and also, if you make a product like a biomedical engineering product, you just ship it somewhere else. You don't have to like make it everywhere, right? But with civil engineering, we notice the distribution is a lot more even. Of course, we have California and Texas and Florida with a high concentration, but that's because there's more buildings and more people in those states in general. But overall, that's one of the perks of working as a civil engineer, is that you could probably get a job anywhere you like. Okay, so next thing I really want to talk about is where the industries are, right? And this is really important. Yes, this is probably the best tip I give to civil engineers, is that there's a good amount of jobs that are private, but there's a pretty good amount of jobs that are also in the government. And also some of these jobs are government contractors, which means they're basically a private company, but they do work for the government, and that pretty much means you're a government employee, sort of. Okay, so I wanted to differentiate between working for the government and then working for a private company, because it's really important. Okay, and when people get their first jobs out of college, they typically stay at the job for at least a year. Typically I see people stay at the job. Some people get their first job and they stay in for the whole career, right? And some people stay for at least about 5 to 10 years. So it's important to know the distinction of working for the government or working for a private company, because when you put all that effort to get a job, go through the background check, go through the drug test, of course you got an interview, maybe 3 rounds of interviews. I want you to choose a company that's right for you. So with working for the government, it has its perks, such as the starting pay is usually higher, the benefits are usually better, you typically won't be forced to work overtime, and it's pretty stable. I would say it's more stable than working for a private company. It's known to be stable, like the Department of Water and Power. It's a very stable company it's a very stable place to work. But the downside is that it tends to be a bit more routine. There's a lot of paperwork, and there's, I would say, in my opinion, I think working for the government is pretty boring. But then again, that's just my opinion. So, but again, there's a lot of it is just following procedures. That was what I'm trying to say. So as for working for a private company, again, you're gonna have a little bit lower pay, it's lower starting pay than working for the government. You may have to work overtime, maybe put in a position where you have to work overtime. Sometimes you're paid for it, sometimes you're not. And then there's also a situation where it's not as stable as working for the government, but there is more room for creativity and innovation. And depending on what you're looking for, if you're a money-minded person, you might want to work for the government because maybe you have kids, you want to buy a house, then work for the government or a government contractor would be a good idea. But if you're more a person that wants to try new things, really learn your craft and be more creative in engineering, then private company is definitely where you want to go. So job outlook, about as fast as the average. Growing about as fast as the national average, which is really good. One reason I put this video off for so long is because when I made my first video about a year ago, civil engineerings were not doing too well. But honestly, I've seen a lot of my civil engineering friends get hired recently. So I think with the economy picking up, I definitely see a big improvement in the employment rate of civil engineers. So that's really good, So next thing I want to say is, how could you be a successful civil engineer? You have to compete in some kind of engineering competition. I personally recommend either the National Concrete Canoe Competition or the Steel Bridge Competition, which are both hosted by ASCE, which is American Society of Civil Engineers. So now here's the website for the canoe competition, and then here's the one for Steel Bridge. And it's really important that you participate in these competitions as soon as possible. So say if you start as a freshman and you are a member of the team, then by the time you're senior, you could be the engineering lead on one of these projects or one of these competitions, one of these teams. And if you're the team engineer lead on one of these teams and your team wins, your team wins a pretty high rank. It makes you look really, 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 really good, really good. Your potential to work anywhere, you really have a lot of spotlight on you because ASCE is huge and these competitions are really well known. So if you do well, if you're engineering lead, being engineering lead for any school on one of these competitions it looks really good already. But on top of that, if you win and beat other schools, it looks really, really good as well. So I would say this is not even optional. You have to compete in one of these two engineering competitions. Pick whatever one you're more interested in or whatever team you get along better with. Actually, it probably matters more whatever team you get along better with than what are actually more interested in it, because you're gonna have to be spending a lot of time with these guys working on this project. But one great thing about these projects or these competitions is that most of the time, all the materials are paid for by the school. All your tools are paid for by the school, and the school will usually pay for your traveling fees. I know my school did, and I went to Cal State Long Beach, which is just a state school, a state university, and they paid for our whole trip when I did my mechanical engineering competition. So most schools will pay for their students to go compete for them if you apply and stuff, go through the student government and stuff. So that's one thing that's pretty cool is you work on this bridge for a whole year, and then at the end of the year you and your team get to go on a free vacation together. Another thing that's really important is volunteering and community participation. And again, this is just through American Society of Civil Engineers. I would say this is not even optional. This is required because for me, I got my engineering internship from volunteering at the Society of Petroleum Engineers. And one great thing about volunteering is that you get to interact with people that are older, and that's really the network that matters, is networking with people that are working professionals that have been working for 10 years, because those are the people that can get you the interviews. Typically your friends won't be able to get you interviews. It's usually the older people. And when you volunteer, it just puts you in a situation where older professional sees you and you're on your good side. They're like, wow, this kid is like really, you know, putting a lot of work in helping the community out, and you know, really helping, you know, outreach to, you know, high school students or something, and they see you in like in a good light, and so they're more likely to give you like a interview if they see you in like in a good light, as they say. Community participation also really important. I wish I knew about this when I was still in school. Basically, a committee is basically a group of people who volunteer, and usually it's working professionals, but students are welcome to be committee members on certain things too. And basically, you meet like whatever, like twice a month, like on video chat or maybe in person, depending on whatever you decide to committee for. And then I don't know, you might read essays for a scholarship, or you might set up a conference for like all of ASCE. So these are really important because again, you get to actually like work a little bit with professionals, and again, a great way to get a job. I recommend doing both committee and volunteering starting freshman year, like right away. And same thing with these bridge competitions, right away. Get as much experience in these competitions as you can right away. It's really gonna help you. Honestly, if you get a good GPA, like 3.5 or above, ideally like 3.7-ish, and you're engineering lead for one of these top, I don't know, 10 schools, and you're involved with volunteering and committee participation, I guarantee you're gonna get a job, a really good job. Like no doubt, there's no doubt. If you do all that, I guarantee you're gonna get a good job, like 100% sure. So that's all I had to say for civil engineering. If you guys like this video, yeah, subscribe. Thanks.